All right, here's an interesting video I've wanted to do for a long time. Now, for years, I searched for a clear explanation of the soul. I then read an article in a quantum physics magazine suggesting that consciousness isn't limited to the body, but may shift to other dimensions after death. It intrigued me, but left big questions like, what are other dimensions and what really happens when we die? So I asked a close friend with a PhD in molecular biology and decades of experience creating vaccines. He also practices Falun Dafa, and the things we talk about blew me away. We first unpacked the reality of the universe based on our understanding of what we learned in Falun Dafa. Now, you may already know that everything we see and touch, including our bodies, is made of molecules, right? Which are made of atoms with nuclei and even smaller particles like quarks and neutrinos, with even smaller ones yet to be discovered. So our world is really a vast cloud of moving particles. Now consider this. The stars and the planets are made of the same molecules, meaning that we exist between two molecular planes, the vast cloud of moving particles surrounding us and the planets in our sky. Now follow me deeper here. Just as electrons orbit an atomic nucleus, the Earth orbits the sun. So are the planets molecules as well? Maybe if we could grow so large that Earth looked like a tiny molecule, planets might appear as subatomic particles too, right? So working that backwards, if we could magnify an electron to the size of Earth, would we discover life like human beings on it? Would we have entered a world in another dimension? As it states in Falun Dafa, quote, if you were to enter into the space between cells and molecules, or one molecule and another, you would experience what it's like to enter another dimension. Unquote. It also states, quote, lives at any of the various planes of particles perceive the particles of the next larger plane to be planets in their skies. And this is true at each and every plane. And this idea is nothing new. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha described the vastness of the universe through his teachings about multiple worlds. He explained that there exist 3,000 planets with beings that have carnal bodies similar to ours, and that in a single grain of sand, there exists a great many worlds. So if we can free our minds, perhaps other dimensions and other life forms aren't so far-fetched after all. Then, based on our limited understanding of Falun Dafa, we dove deeper into the composition of the human body. As we've established, our bodies are made of molecules, right? And ever smaller particles. And when we die, whether buried or cremated, our flesh and bones vanish, but the smaller particles don't. How do we know this? Because destroying atomic nuclei releases immense energy and massive explosions, which don't occur even during cremation. So death only alters the outermost layer, the visible shell we wear, much like shedding clothing, right? We vanish in this dimension, but our energetic essence remains. It doesn't perish. And maybe this deeper living core that remains intact could be what some call the soul. Interesting, right? So what happens to our energetic essence when we die? Well, as we touched on briefly, true spiritual teachers have long taught that the soul can ascend. And our thoughts, words, and actions shape this energy. And by cultivating virtue, being kind, and living moral lives, we may rise beyond this dense molecular world to a higher, purer plane, what many call heaven. But as it teaches in Falun Dafa, and I'm paraphrasing, to go there, however, your mind and body must first meet the requirements for existence there. And that night, after reading this, I had an unbelievable dream. I was no longer on Earth. I had ascended somewhere higher, like a different plane. I can't describe it. It was just like untouched, pure, like it had never been stained by anything human, right? Then two beings appeared before me. And again, human words like compassion don't even come close to the immense power of their presence. It was more like divine or, infinite. And I remember feeling perfect and complete in their energy, like weightless with this overwhelming sense of rightness, not as a rule or society trend, but as something kind of written into the very fabric of our existence. They then looked at me and I woke up. And for a moment I was still glowing, right? Still in it. But as the minutes passed, reality started settling in. Desires, emotions, thoughts, humanness, right? And I was disappointed because compared to that place, here felt like suffering. And I enlightened that maybe the real meaning of life, right? The true purpose that we have as human beings is to find our way back to realms like that, to end the cycle of life and rebirth back down here. For decades, I ignored my spiritual side, but as I began to understand other dimensions, I could no longer dismiss the possibility that other planes inhabited by beings purer than us, call them divine or gods, might actually exist. And why not? Why dismiss the soul believed for thousands of years just because we can't see it or fully grasp it? It's true, science hasn't proven it, but it also hasn't proven we just disappear after death either. Every scientific breakthrough at one time was never proven either, until it was. And isn't it comforting to believe that our lost loved ones may still exist somewhere in the universe? You know, I'd rather hold on to that and seek those answers than believe that we just amount to nothing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.